Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Toku Portal podcast. That was a great 10-minute break, but we're back for Kamen Rider Saber.
Joining us is me, Rai, and
Zero. Yeah, I didn't realize you guys just finished up. A good timing, I guess.
yeah.
We were both tired, so we did the Sentai podcast tonight.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, this week's been fucking terrible. Right. I mean, like, I guess the last 2 weeks everybody's like busy as hell. Plus the extra bonus of it's been like -30 like all fucking week.
Oof.
Yeah. And then every day it's like, oh, it'll get better, and then you come back and it's like, oh no, it's actually gonna be colder than tomorrow.
I haven't had it that bad, but yesterday, it took me an extra 15 minutes to get home because of the snowstorm.
Oh shit, that sucks. Yeah, luckily we haven't been getting like an insane amount of snow, but it's just been like fucking frozen. I mean, like, it's better than the north. I heard like they got like -50 with windshield like a day. So I'm like, fuck that. I'm not dealing with that shit. Anyway, continuing with this show.
Right. Kamen Rider Saber, episode 21. So, I'm enjoying Saber now.
Right? That's what I was saying. I'm like, I like season 2 of Saber. Right?
It feels like it should have been where the show started.
Yeah, exactly. It literally just feels like season 2, because it's like, oh shit, Kenzan died. That's the end of season 1. Or not Kenzan, Kento. So Espada.
Right, we kept making that mistake.
Yeah, Espada died. And so, like, after that, it feels like it was like, oh, end of the season, and it's been a couple... Well, I mean, in the show, it hasn't been that long, but, like, the way the characters have grown, it feels like it's been, like, a month or two or a little while where they've been sort of just dealing with this shit.
Like, the first arc felt like the end of a different show.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Like, especially with like the gimmicks, right? Like, we haven't really even seen the books come back up at all. And like, even in this episode where it's like Slash is like, yeah, stop using the fucking books. I mean, like, that's Saber's specialty is the books. But Slash is like, are you even a swordsman, bro? Pretty much, right? It's that like moment in like Blade when like the monster is like, oh, you're nothing without the cards. You can't even beat us. Like, fuck off. You don't deserve to be in this fight with the undead. And then Blade's like, oh yeah, really? Okay, let's do it without the damn power ups, and then kicks the monster's ass anyway. I'm like, Saber's not quite that skilled, but I guess he's getting there. So that was interesting. But yeah, it definitely feels like a different show now. Especially, honestly, I think like as soon as Yuri showed up, the show like totally became a different show.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
Yuri adds an entirely new dimension to this show.
His relationship with Toma just makes me feel like I don't even know who the other swordsmen are.
I mean, I guess we're getting there because we know Rentero's backstory, and then like we got like Slash's backstory, or at least like a little bit of it, and then like next episode I think we're gonna get Buster's.
Like, what I mean is, Yuri and Toma play off of each other so well, and their characters have grown together to the point where I see them as legitimate friends, more so than I see Toma as having gone along with any of the other swordsmen.
Yeah, I do agree. But this kind of brings back a point that Drago was talking about. It's like, Toei, like, stop putting all of the important character shit in the side projects.
Right? Seriously, was there really no time to do that in the actual show?
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense because they're like, oh, well, we couldn't shoot stuff like Normal Rider because of COVID. I'm like, yeah, maybe we should have fucking had more character moments.
More than normal. You shot extra footage and aired it separately.
Right, exactly. It's literally the thing of like, oh no, we're not gonna fuck it up like Host. This time we won't mess with the show. I'm like, oh yeah? Oh yeah? So we're just gonna go like, nah, fuck that. We're secretly just gonna dump. We're not gonna be as bad as Drive because nothing can be as bad as Drive because like even Toei is like, okay, we went overboard, right? But like, this is just a new formula of like, oh, we can't do the double thing of like the whole important backstory is somewhere else. No, we're not doing that. But now it's like, oh yeah, it's only just the important character moments. You know, like
This is
that, you know. It's like Snipe and Gentoku, and like every fucking year there's at least one character whose like important shit happens in like a mini series for
I
no
get what you-
reason.
And I get what you mean with Drive, with like all the side movies about other characters and such, but this kind of has a Drive effect to it, where like halfway through Drive, the show became a different show,
Oh yeah, exactly.
and that's what happened here. Like when the second arc started, it became a different show.
I think it's like, oh, we don't have to sell the toys anymore. So I'm like, okay, that's fair enough, but I'm like, what the hell is your excuse for not giving your characters personality? Right? Because like
We gotta
Yuri Yuri's the,
introduce them.
yeah, exactly. Like Yuri is doing the, oh look, here's the new toy and look at how cool it is gimmick, but he also has personality this whole time. Fuck, May has personality. Like, I mean, she always had it, but like even more now.
Here's why: because you have Toma and Yuri. You don't have 5 or 6 swordsmen all fighting for the same screen time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, honestly, because lately it's been like pairs. Like, there's the Toma and Yuri, and then there's the Slash and Buster pair on
Like-
the other side. Yeah, go ahead.
Like Rintaro and Kento.
Oh,
They
yeah.
they were relevant characters. And Slash is an important character as well. But at what point was Kenzan, or Ren rather, Ren and Buster, at what point were they important? At what point did they need to be introduced when they were?
I mean, Buster, like, I think, like, Buster kind of just exists because the fact of, like, oh, we need a dad Kamen Rider, because this show is all about, like the passing on the torch and the different generations of, like, heroes. Kind of, like, it's trying to do the Kiva thing, except worse. Right? Whereas, like, Kiva's whole thing is, like, oh, this is the next generation. Right, and they have to learn, and they have to, like, you know, learn from their parents' mistakes or make their own, or like deal with like all the baggage and try to live up to the legacy. Like, Kiva's a lot better doing this, but that's the thing. That's like Kiva's whole show is about that, right?
Yeah.
Kiva's format was built better for it.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean,
The
like,
dual
they're getting
storytelling.
there. Like, honestly, I feel like every time we get like a like flashback of what happened in the past or something, or oh, this is actually the person. Like, it just starts feeling like Garo. Like, have you noticed that? I don't know if you guys have watched it.
Oh, I haven't seen Garo.
Yeah, yeah. So like, you know how like it goes and it's like you get a flashback in this episode to like Slash and his backstory of like his dad or whoever raised him.
Right.
Just telling him like, yeah, this is what it means to be a swordsman. Like, if somebody has this characteristic, follow them. That type of shit. But it's kind of got this like weird, almost dreamlike vibe because it's a memory and shit. That's basically how Garo sort of tells its stuff. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, and then like how bittersweet it is in this episode where Slash is like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, like every time you show up, more people die. You know, like every time we go out, that's the burden of being a swordsman. Right? Like, that's so, like, this episode feels very Garo-esque, which is not bad, but it's a lot more mature than Saber has been for a while. Right? So that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's very interesting. But again, you're right, it's the smaller cast which is doing it. Honestly, like, as much as I'm annoyed that like Southern Base Lady and like the generals aren't getting that much character, I'm like, I'd rather have a few good characters than like all the characters show up and have like no character, like it was happening early on.
Like Key Ranger.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is the guy who wrote this worked on Q Ranger also. I mean, he worked on Ghost with the other writers of this show also, but like, yeah, he worked. Or actually, no, is that the director? One moment.
But like this show, like I'd mentioned to Rai,
Oh, that's the director.
an hour ago. Like this show has the fault of Blade, but where Blade issue, worked itself in the story and works together as a whole, especially on the rewatch. There's nothing in the beginning of the show that warrants a need to rewatch it for a different understanding.
Yeah.
It just sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even the Ghost problem of like it's uneven, because I looked at like who wrote Ghost, and it's like, yeah, like literally every like 2-parter, 3-parter, or like every episode they were like switching fucking writers early on in Ghost, and it's like, oh, that's why it was fucking uneven as all hell. But like later on he got it together. But whereas this show, it's like, no, it's literally the same dudes who were writing this stuff, like the last like 6 episodes or whatever, right? Like season 2 of Saber has been written by the same people who wrote the show early on. It's just like literally they were just trying to get to this part. That's what it feels like.
I think I would have preferred Toma already be a swordsman that had left the organization, and you get flashbacks to times when he fought alongside them.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Like, but see, the problem then becomes
alludes, like, don't forget about Kento.
Oh yeah. I mean, the problem with that is then you get a character that's very much like Snipe, where it's like he's really cool. He's got like all this interaction with the villains and everything, and like there's all this other layers going on because he knew the previous generation, all this shit, and like there's backstory. The problem becomes is like that's not a gateway character. You can't learn about the world, and I know we haven't really been learning about the Saber world that much. But like this episode where it's like Saber is actually like, oh, this is how the swords were made, and that's why his freaking flame sword is super important. Why it reacted with the dark blade is because it was created to be like them.
Here's the thing, while you can't learn a whole lot through Saber himself,
yeah,
there's still things you can learn alongside him. So like you have May get involved and have her find out about
that's exactly
the
what
Rider stuff, and so you learn about the base knowledge from her about the villains, the Megiddo, the swords, the books. And then you have us learn along Saber with the new stuff where it's like, wait, they're turning humans into Megiddo now? That's not in the rule book. Hold on.
Right, exactly. That's what I was saying, is like you already had a gateway character like May who would have been perfect, and like her thing is like, well, she's his editor, but I'm like, you could have just made her a journalist. It would have made perfect sense. Or like, yeah, you could, oh, actually no, fuck that. You could have straight up made it like Blade is like, I'm writing a book. Right? Because that's the whole gimmick of the guy who helps the Blade cast, is like, hey, I want to write this book, which actually comes into the Blade movie, where it's like he gets famous after he publishes that book.
Right,
and they all fall apart.
Kazuma is just a garbage man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not... Oh, man. That movie is super interesting.
Like, I think one of the things that this show has failed at is the aspect of Saber learning what it means to be Saber.
I think he's like starting that arc now.
Right. But to me, it's like the whole learning to be a swordsman thing, I felt should have started way earlier in this aspect of considering the fact of this show literally went, oh, he's got the books and the swords. Okay, cool. Go kick its ass.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like they have a reason why they did that. It's not a good reason, but they do. Whereas like Slash kind of talks about it this episode, is like, you're good with books, but like you're not a swordsman. Because like that's right. Like all the swordsmen kind of have a gimmick. And the thing with Saber is like he's good with the damn books. Like he's really good at fucking using the books. And that's his gimmick. Right. And the thing is like, but he's not really much of a swordsman. And yeah, you're right. They're kind of getting into that arc now, but it's like, yeah, it's a little late. But like, I like how they're doing it now. You're right. It did take a while. Also, we're like 15 minutes in. And we're like really shitting on Saber, even though this was a really good episode. So I'm like, maybe let's talk about some of the good parts, and we'll go back to complaining. But if you have something to say, Vashi, go ahead.
In defense of me, I've been here for what 3 of the podcasts, so a fair bit of my complaining is more
Build up.
I've
Yeah,
not been
fair
here
enough. Go ahead. Go ahead.
for my views for the last handful of episodes. But you are right. It's like there is a fair bit to unpack from this episode, which is fantastic.
No, I mean, like, yeah, that's a good point. If you want to,
So-
like, air your grievances about the
I
past, we can do that
I can
now.
Circle back. I can circle back to them
Okay.
because some of them are tied to things that happen in this.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
But
This
that
episode.
first arc took 15 episodes. Which means
Yeah.
that, like, this is going off of what Vash was saying about, like, learning what it means to be a swordsman.
Mhm.
If we had cut that entire first arc stuff out, we'd be on episode 6 right now.
They didn't even they
Yeah,
don't even have
yeah,
to cut
it's
it all
true.
out.
And 6 solid episodes. I mean, like, it's not like there weren't good episodes in the first 15. There were some. But, like, the good episodes in that arc are with the character who's dead. So, like, you could literally... Yeah, they were not this good.
I
But
wouldn't necessarily say those episodes were strictly bad, just that the overarching narrative was a huge pill to swallow.
Agreed. I mean, honestly, it is true. You could start like 6 episodes ago where it's like, okay, Kento's dead and the organization fell apart. But they pretty much catch you up if you're watching it on like episode 16 or whatever. It's like, okay, this is the new status quo. Right? Like, go. It's like... I don't know. I could technically probably recommend people jump in the beginning of this arc. Right? And like skip the first 15. I know it's not the best move, but honestly, like, you don't lose that much. Right? Like, maybe you lose, who is this character? Okay, I was like, yeah, go back and watch that first episode they showed up in. There you go. Right? But like, again, that's like 3 episodes out of 15.
So yeah, let's talk about this episode's highlights.
Can I start
yes?
with what I feel is one of the best highlights?
Go for it.
I think I know what you're gonna say.
May wrangling Yuri.
Okay, that's interesting.
Hands down was an absolute delight. Of May and initially Toma trying to wrangle Yuri, like when he hijacked the bike.
Oh yeah, that's true.
To be fair, the bike did say free bicycle.
Yeah. Well, it must be one of those like rideshare things, but who cares?
But and then like him like learning the escalator and all that.
Oh
Like,
god, that's so.
This is very convenient. No, you've got to go up and around and down the other one. Well, this is very inconvenient.
Yeah, I think that was last episode, but so good.
Yeah, that was last week.
Oh, that was last week.
But it's,
So I
it's
watched
really
both
good.
of them. I watched both of them. Back.
Yeah,
Right.
that's fair.
This week was the one where Tassel is giving his opening spiel, and then Yuri shows up and says, "I want to be a swordsman again. Where's my book that has all my swordsman history?"
Oh, right. And then Tassel
You
lost
lost
it.
it,
And
didn't you?
Yep.
that's right. Because this led me to ask you a question, Ryan.
Okay.
Why does Tassel have a picture of himself in his hat?
I
don't know.
Man. It's
He's
his
the
book.
what did I tell you when this show started? He's the great sage.
I
Great
know,
stage.
I mean-
Okay. Also, he did drop a couple books. Was there anything new? I don't know. I didn't freeze frame and check.
I
didn't
didn't.
check
I didn't either.
Yeah. Anyway.
If you freeze framed and checked, let us know, Drago. Because if anyone
On a
was
side
going to
note,
do
hey,
that, it would be
on a-
him.
On a side note, Drago, if you haven't watched the episode, please freeze frame and check.
It's fine.
Uh,
Also, before we get too far, this episode was written by Hasegawa Keiichi and directed by Sugahara Teruaki. Yeah, Teruaki.
Okay.
So, this writer has written for the show. This is the first time this person has directed one episode of Saber.
Okay.
Yeah, so
start.
Fantastic episode. Way to
Yeah.
start it.
The writer wrote episode, let's see, 15 and 16. So Beyond Determination, Ray of Light, Saving the World.
Okay, so
So
the transition between the two arcs.
Yeah, Scattering Thunder. Oh, 11 and 12. So Scattering Thunder, Spreading Dark Clouds, Promise Made in That Place. That's pretty good. 7 and 8, Kingsblade and Avalon. So basically, like, all the decent, like, important changing stuff. Yeah, like, it's like all the transition.
Yeah, all of the plot ones.
Well,
Where it's
not,
like
not the
here's-
super
well,
plot
not
ones,
plot
but like,
not
yeah.
plot as in background lore, but plot as in story development.
Yeah, agreed. Honestly, it feels like whenever he shows up, Yuri gets something to do or it connects to you. So it's like it's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay. So if you see this guy, Yuri's gonna get something, which is cool. I mean, like, it's sort of like Beast, where it's in from Wizard, where it's like the main writer didn't want to write Beast, so the secondaries had to do all that. Yeah, that's cool. They also worked on Coast. I think they wrote like the third most episode. Well, there's like 3 people who worked on Coast. This guy wrote, out of the 3 people, he wrote like 11. Another person wrote 13. Another person wrote like 22. And the person who wrote 22, I think, is like the main writer of Coast, who wrote last 2 episodes. And then the other person was before that. So, like, all 6 of these, basically, 5 or 6, are written by, like, the 3 main people, sort of. And they're all good, so it's like, yeah, this is no longer like, oh, they're just terrible. It's just like, yeah, the format in the beginning of the show was just shit. Right? Because they can write, apparently. Like, fuck, this episode was super good. But sorry, derailing you guys. Continue.
Oh no, this is a good progression.
Yeah, I was also. Yeah. What was your favorite moment, Rye?
Oh, my favorite moment? Slash.
Oh yeah, dude, anything with Slash in this is so good.
Last week's episode, I finished it and I messaged Vashi. I had forgotten that Slash was the best character on the show.
Oh, dude, apparently Drago's like, yeah, if you watch the like special, Buster and Slash get even better. I'm like, what the fuck? Right? Like, they're already like the top characters in this show.
Like,
Well, I mean, Slash is.
I watched the first part of that, which is literally the build up to Slash's reveal as a swordsman.
Nice.
And yeah, those two together, like, it makes sense why Buster and Daishinji are the best pair, because they've been around each other so long, like, they know their quirks and all that, and they know how to interact well with each other. And it adds an entire depth of, like, caring to Buster's character and a lot more understanding to Slash.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like since they moved to the southern base, like Buster. Well, I mean, that's not true. Buster was kind of like, even with Kento, Buster was kind of more in dad mode as Kento's storyline went along. But like, since they moved into the southern base, he's like way more chill and just like keeping everybody in check, right? Or
Right.
like,
I think he's trying to keep everybody cool while Daishinji's the only member who's actually going, I have a brain.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like,
Have
they.
any of us actually tried talking to him and like listening?
Yeah, honestly, that's one of the problems. But I'm like, but the show actually kind of did a good thing, I think last episode or something, where it's like, yeah, they're like, hey, why doesn't Rentaro just go talk to Toma? And he did, and they're like, oh, right,
Yeah,
they don't
he
get
tries
along
it.
now.
Like, and it was going great up until the point where Toma said, there's a traitor in the organization.
Right,
And
so-
Rentaro went, fuck you.
I know, right? It's like, honestly, like, yeah, these characters have problems. Like, they should have done this a lot earlier, but the way the episodes where they actually go and talk or interact are actually really well done. Where it's like, yeah, Rentaro would be on your side if you weren't so just like straightforward gunning for it. It's like, yeah, I know, dude, there's a traitor in the organization, but maybe don't say that to the one guy who's like basically a true believer, right? Like, he doesn't want to hear that shit, right?
Okay, but Rentaro is in a cult and he needs to hear this.
Yeah, I know he needs to hear this, but he's not gonna be the guy to resist. I mean, honestly, I'm actually kind of amazed that they called out Kenzan.
Actually, you okay over there?
Yeah.
Can we all collectively yell at Pixie?
Okay.
What
does
happened?
She sent me a message, and it was a very bad pun and joke.
Let's hear
Because I
it.
commented the whole, Daishinji being the only one who goes, "I've got a brain," and she goes, "You have a brain." Nah, Heart had the brain.
Oh my
And
god.
sent me a picture of Dry.
Okay. Okay.
Oh god, I was not expecting that.
I was not expecting that too. Oh my god.
I was not expecting this much drive talk during Saber.
Okay. I mean, this is pretty
fair,
much
they're both red.
Drive. It's literally like if Coast and Drive fused together. It's like, okay, you know what? It's like the Coast cast wrote Drive. This is the show. Right? Like, think about it.
What?
Because it's like the people who wrote Coast, right, wrote
Yeah.
Drive and made the same mistakes that Drive did. And this is basically what this show would be. That's not true. I mean, like, Drive kept the like gimmicks going for much longer, right? Where it's like, oh, this is a new shift car, right? Whereas like here, they're like, fuck it, we're done. You know, toy
Yeah, the
season's
shift cars
over.
actually felt distinct from each other.
Oh, that's true. The books are so fucking like one note. Like, man, I thought they were like one note in build, but shit, at least in build they get reused. Right
Oh,
here, it's like, oh look, it's that red form. Oh look, it's the more red form. Wait, no, that's the silver
It's
and red
the
form.
all red form.
Right, I know, like, it's so bad.
So
Yeah.
I have an issue with this show, and I have to preface it by prefacing it. I understand we have bitched about this particular thing being a thing in previous shows, but it
Yeah.
needs to happen here.
Okay.
What's up?
This is a show where it needs to happen. Because we have these two-parter episodes where, they go off and fight the monster.
Okay.
And the monster kicks his ass, and he's ends up using his, at the current moment, his ultimate form.
Right.
So in the next episode, when he goes back to fight him, why doesn't he just use that form?
Oh, you're right.
Because this isn't Kiva.
Understand? Which again,
Okay.
I knew Kiva would get brought up.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Kiva, they used it because the suit was too heavy. The original
It
suit.
literally had chains on it.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
But it made sense. in
I
the
understand that there's a point of overusing the final forms or the
Yeah.
power-up forms. I get it and I understand it. But in this particular instance, if you were literally getting your ass kicked in any other form and you go back to fight the monster, why are you using any other form? Up until this episode, you have learned nothing new.
I think
Yeah, I know.
the implication is that Toma doesn't want to accidentally kill the person inside.
I know, but
Okay.
it's not hell.
That's acceptable if this wasn't an issue before the humans were involved.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean, the standard
Jeez,
reason for
maybe
that.
that's Slash's lesson here.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh,
and
that's
that's what I'm
true.
saying, is
Slash is always in in like his top form.
Like this is the episode. This is the two episodes that teach Saber how to actually not have to rely on them,
Right.
and I'm fine with that. But up until now, like literally, why he showed up at any one of these fights, not already in his, ass kicking form, which in fairness he was still getting his ass kicked in.
Yeah.
Why he wasn't using that during outside of any fight other than his one with Slash.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair,
It makes no sense.
yeah, the real reason is because that's how the damn shows are structured. So it's like, well, every fight is structured the same way. It's like you gotta escalate through the thing. I mean, especially because it's fucking Toei. Like this shit happens in Dragon Ball all the fucking time. Where it's like, why are you in base form? Why are you using Super Saiyan 1? What the fuck? Just go blue. No one has time for this.
Okay, Dragon Ball though, they have an excuse.
Yeah, sometimes. But here's the thing, like, at least in Dragon Ball, it's like, alright, this wastes more energy. But in Kamen Rider, every once in a while, that's not true. Like, some of the forms are different, but I'm like, in Saber, the forms don't do anything that different. And two, usually when they have a power-up, they have like, oh, my power-up has like a time limit. Or I can only use it when I'm in this state of mind. Or something like that, right?
So all this comes back to my core problem with Saber, which is that the first arc felt like the end of a different show, and now this arc feels like the start of a new one. And so we are halfway through the series, and it doesn't feel like it. It feels like we're just getting started. So even though Toma has his tier 2 form, it doesn't feel like we're at that point yet.
Right, because it just feels like some random power-up.
Yeah, it's true. There's like no fanfare. I mean, to be fair, like the problem with that is like he gets his power up, then freaking Rentaro gets his power up, and then Yuri shows up. So it's like it's not special at all, right? Like it doesn't have like, okay, for once it's not overpowered, which I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's just a stronger form, cool, right? But the problem is like it doesn't feel special at all. It doesn't have any special abilities. Like if it was the form that you use to separate people, right? Like if Saber used it and then like he had the glowing sword thing happen this episode in that form, I'm like, oh, at least we have a reason to use this now. But it's like now it's like why do we even need this? Yuri exists. Like he could power you up in any form. I guess you need like the King Arthur form thing to use him, but it's like, is that even true? Because like I don't know. I'm like maybe Saber used him in like a non like silver and red form. But yeah, honestly, I think like that's the only complaint this episode is like, yeah, why are you still going through the basic forms? Because otherwise, like everything else they did was fucking great, right?
Yeah, like I am legitimately enjoying the show now, but again, it feels like I'm watching a different show than I was before.
Like,
yeah,
and this episode set up something fantastic, and gives I feel a little bit more insight into a character that again we keep forgetting exists, and that character is Disaster.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
So for the longest time, I thought Disaster was one of the 3 villains until Drago told me he wasn't.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like when he first showed up, but then at one moment he shows up beside Caliber, and then he fights Caliber when like all the 3 villains are white. I'm like, oh, it's not the same dude. But you're right. If you miss that, it's weird because like he just pops into the show and then he disappears. It's not even like the Gremlin thing where it's like, oh no, he's secretly doing his own thing. It's like he is, but like he's got like nothing going on. Like we don't know what the fuck he's doing off screen.
Like it's no wonder I couldn't figure out which of them was Disaster.
It's true.
So with this episode, whichever one of the villains showed up during the second fight, the one where Kenzan showed up.
Generic villain number 2.
Okay. Was that number 2 or number 3?
I don't care.
I think that was 3.
Say what you will about the Time Jackers, I could tell them
apart.
apart.
Oh yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, here's like the way I know is like, okay, there's 2 red ones and 1 blue one. Okay, so the blue one's clearly the wolf dude. He doesn't come into fights that much, right? Then you have the 2 generals. There's like the Vayne guy and then the guy who can like duplicate and do all that. So with like the white face and like the staff, that's clearly the guy in black all the time, right? Who's got like that weird
the one with the long piece of hair.
Yeah, that going on, whatever. That dude. And then if it's not those 2, it's the middle guy who shows up the most. right?
Okay, which one's the punk one?
wolf.
Probably
He's the wolf.
he's the wolf.
Like the muscle-brained idiot. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the wolf.
Okay.
Yeah, the dude with like the black blazer with like the red trim is like the dude who shows up the most. In his like human form, that's what he looks like.
But well, regardless, whichever one of the two that wasn't the wolf
Yeah.
that showed up during the Kenzan fight before Disaster, after Disaster had already done his little thing.
Yeah, that was a super interesting fight too. Honestly, that fucking like 4-sided fight was so
that
good.
That was phenomenal. That 1v3, that was 2v2, that was.
Yeah, and like everybody teams up with Saber for a second. It's like, oh no, they're on the same side, but they like all fucking hate Saber. So they're like, piss off, I don't want to fight with you. And I was like, that was so good, man.
Like, okay, but if the villains are complimenting you on taking out your own ally, maybe you should reconsider what you're doing.
I mean, honestly, that is like Kenzan's episode where it's like he shows up and they kind of do it perfectly where it's like, yeah, you could join us because like he's going down the path because they're like, wait,
so you're
the Sword of
after
Logos,
the same thing we are here, aren't you? It's
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, that's the one where they learn that the Sword of Logos. Well, it's the episode after that they learn that the Sword of Logos and Sophia's gone, and then they learn that the Sword of Logos is fighting, and they're like, oh, maybe you can turn another to our side. And like Kenzan shows up like fucking an emotional mess, like he always is lately, right? And then he's just kind of going off, and then Disaster shows up. It's like, hey, let's fight, and it's like, fuck off, man. I'm so done with it. And then the villains are like, hey, you're pretty good, join us. Or it's like no, but they clearly know that like out of anyone in the Sword of Logos, he's the one that they can turn. Right?
Well,
I'm like, I actually really like that. Like that kind of gave Kenzan like a potential character arc going forward.
Oh, they did, especially considering the fact that something that the villain specifically said. The villain looked at Kenzan and literally went, "Huh, so you're the new Disaster."
Or Caliber, maybe.
I don't think he said that. I think he said...
That's what he said.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was that or you're gonna be the next Disaster.
Kind of. I mean, like, the more interesting thing is we figure out in this episode is like, oh, the reason why they're just sending like weak ass monsters for the most part is one, it's a lot easier to do that now because like since the world's connected, there's a lot more humans, so they're just gathering books. Like 20 people drop dead or something. Maybe not that much,
And they've
but
got
like
20 books. They got a big group of books
bunch
sitting
of
on the
books.
table.
Right.
And then
We
like
got that
when they
montage of Toma like investigating all the missing persons report and realizing like all these
they're
people
all dead.
died and I failed to save them.
yeah, I know, right?
While
Like
I was saving one person, 20 more died.
right, exactly. Especially with like all their infighting and shit, and whenever like Slash shows up, it's like, yeah, welcome to the real world, right? You can't save everyone, pretty much. And then I also like the villains are like, what the fuck are you doing? Why did you take all our books? Who the hell gave you permission? And then they're like, wait, what? What did you do? Are you crazy? You're trying to make another Disaster? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So like Disaster was made in a different way. That's why he's crazy and like independent.
That's something I'm looking forward to getting an answer to.
Because what they did was, what that one guy did was he merged a bunch of Megiddo together to make a new, stronger one. So that's what Disaster is. He's just a bunch of Megiddo that fused.
Yep. I mean...
But I feel it's a mixture of that, but instead of it being just some random human that they put the book in.
No, I don't think
right, there's more to it than that.
I feel it was a swordsman.
It could be.
Probably.
Because the thing is,
Which
like, we don't...
Which would make the line that the villain said make sense of, oh, well, you're the next Disaster.
I don't remember that
I don't
line, though.
think so, but... Because the thing is, like, Disaster has his own book, but... Because he shows up and they're like, oh, what are these Wonder Book gimmicks? Like, I liked it better in the old ways. But You're right. He could be an older swordsman. It's possible. We'll see. I was gonna be like, oh, was he the previous Kenzan? But it's like no, because like Buster is the previous Kenzan, right? Um,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Like there's so much fucking lore in this episode. It's insane, right? Like for once, it feels like, I mean, to be fair, like Saber
Right.
tends to go like a mile a minute anyway, but like for once, it's like shit that's important, and it
So
builds
like,
character. Go ahead.
we get clarification on a few things. The swords of light and darkness were the first two swords to exist, and then Flame Blade Rekka, the one Saber uses, was the first imitation blade created by Slash's
Right.
family. So that's why it's so special to them, because it's like, hey, this was the first attempt at creating a new sword. It's got a lot of special shit that it can do.
Yeah, especially that also explains why like it resonated with Caliber, because it's also got the dragon thing, which if it's a copy, which means it's a copy of the Dark Blade, right? Whereas like, because they say like, yeah, that the Blade of Darkness and the Blade of Light were both used to protect the book, which means it wasn't an evil blade. It just had different properties.
Right. Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, and it's not even like the thing where like the Blade of Lights thing where it's like it's got like a light form and a shadow form thing. Like no, it wasn't like a form gimmick thing going on. It was like specific different abilities, and like it feels like Saber's sword is more closely a copy of that, which is interesting. Um, yeah, that is so cool. Honestly, it's also interesting that like Slash has his own thing. Is like I wonder if he made his own sword. So like I wonder if all the swordsmen in his family make their own swords.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's cool.
And
That
yeah,
that
I was
was
gonna say we also find out that like Slash's family not only makes the swords, but his father or grandfather or whoever told him like, hey, if you ever find that special swordsman, walk the same path as them, support them. And
yeah,
so Toma is basically the prophecy come true in his eyes.
and that would explain what the fuck Yuri is going on about. Of like, oh, Toma is destined to gain more power. Because like I guess Yuri knows that like the sword has this ability and Toma can bring it out. Which is kind of cool. But also, like, fuck, Slash is like the most interesting character. I mean, like, Yuri's pretty good too, because, like, yeah, he's been like hanging around the human world. At first, it's like, what is this hero comic book nonsense? When he first shows up, and he's been like reading it, like, oh, I actually get it now. And then he shows
Right,
up and he's X8 now.
It's like, yeah. Yeah, because like he talks to Toma. It's like, what? This isn't. This is a weird sense of justice. It's so frivolous. But then he sees Toma in action and starts to realize, like, oh, that's what your justice means, and that's what it means in the modern era. Okay, okay, I want to try this some more. Let me try myself. Where's my book?
I know, right? That's such a. I'm like, at first I was like, oh no, he's gonna die now. He's got a body. But I'm like, there's no. And then, but then they gave Saber his own like glowing power up. So I'm like, wait, maybe he doesn't have to die because like, if Saber has his own ability, he won't need the Blade of Light, which is interesting. I mean, he also still has the freaking lightning blade. Also, the sword, the southern base does not have any swordsmen apparently. How the fuck were you like keeping the peace with no people? Like what? What the hell was that?
I have to imagine that the southern base has swordsmen. We're just not seeing them.
I mean, like
Like at
unless
least,
unless they've kidnapped Sophia and they're the ones holding her, like where the fuck are they?
unless there's no issues in the southern hemisphere. Like all the issues are in Japan right now, so that's where all the swordsmen congregated.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean that's kind of lazy considering like we have so many characters. You could have just thrown in one. You could have been like, oh yeah, the southern base guys, they're out doing their own shit. They're more experienced. They fly solo.
We
Like
do got that.
they kind of operate in Garo rules where it's like they have the Senate, they just get their orders. They all get like a section of like country or city to protect, and they just do it. Or it's like they don't usually team up. It's sort of like Hibiki. Is how
We do
Garo
got
works.
that movie villain. Maybe they're a Southern base member.
No, maybe. I don't actually know anything about the movie. But like
Me either. Just that the villain is another swordsman.
it's gonna be interesting. Anyway, so what else happened in this episode? We talked about Slash, all the good shit that is Slash.
Yeah. So Slash kicks Toma's ass, and then Toma technically wins the fight when he shows the potential to unlock his blade's true power.
Well, I mean,
And
he
so-
technically knocked Slash's sword out of his hand, so he did win the
Right.
fight.
And so Slash realizes, like, this is the man that my family has been waiting for 2,000 years. I'm leaving the organization. And Buster sees him off, like, alright, I'll be sure to not cause trouble for you.
Yeah, I mean, does he say 2,000 years? Because the Sword of Light's 1,000
Yeah.
years. So I'm like, that's
Uh,
interesting. So Yuri either is not the first
Slash-
user, or he just sealed away his body 1,000 years ago. That's interesting too.
Yeah, I think Yuri sealed his body away 1,000 years ago. He was not the original wielder. He was just a past wielder.
Interesting. Yeah, like, what else happened? Like, all the stuff with Mei and Toma were great. Yuri, again, great. Slash, great.
Oh,
Not so much
Toma's-
from the villains and Southern Base this time. But, sorry, you were saying?
I was about to say Toma's learning how to separate the humans from the Megiddo without the Sword of Light.
Yeah, that was cool. Oh, I also like it kind of makes Slash of what the hell's been saying, where it's like, oh, you're not, like, I didn't hear any resonance from your blade at all. And so, like, what the hell are you on about? Is it because you're the music guy? But it's like, no, in this episode, it's like, it's because, like, Toma hasn't connected with the sword at all.
He's just swinging a sword. He's not using it.
Yeah, I know. Also, continuing with the fucking Bleach shit, it's like, oh, right, there's a dude in my sword, right? Yeah, right, you gotta go talk to your Zanpakuto in the inner self. Oh, man, so good.
And in Yuri's case, it is him.
It is. Yeah, it's true. It's so good. But I'm like, yeah, that does make sense because all the other swordsmen don't generally use books that much because they all rely on their own techniques. Especially
Right,
like
they stick to their core 2 or 3 that they know how to use.
right, exactly.
But Toma is just constantly using different ones. Like, hey, what's this one do?
Yeah, I mean that is his special ability. Is like he's really good with books, but like yeah, again, he hasn't really used any of the sword's power per se, because like even like Kenzan and Buster, especially those two, Slash also like he's really strong with like very few books because like he knows how to handle himself in a fight. And like
like
Rentero's
Buster and
getting
Slash
there,
really
but
only-
like he's kind of not in a good headspace right now.
Like Buster and Slash have really only used 2 books. Their main transforming one and then one additional.
Right. I mean, especially considering that would explain why like Kenzan's so strong. It's because he doesn't really use books, and it's like, how is he that strong? It's like, oh, because all he does is fight, right?
Right.
And so like he's really good at connecting with the sword, especially considering his sword splits in 2. Right. So that would be
just
interesting if
really-
we ever get that moment where it's like it goes straight up Bleach, where it's like, oh yeah, you get to meet the Zanpakutos also, but like I doubt the show's gonna cast that many more characters or anything. Like they could do the
Long as-
wizard thing of like inner world, but like unlikely.
As long as Tassel isn't one of them, I don't care.
Well, I mean, Tassel exists in the other world. Like he's not. Like okay,
We're
it's
not
not.
necessarily sure where
Okay.
where that exists.
Yeah, I will agree. I hope it's not
That
Tassel
definitely
because
exists in Wonderworld.
Right.
Well, I mean, but it could be through the connection with the sword.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, yes, I'm saying if you want to emulate Bleach, do it a little. Do not go full Bleach, where it's like, oh yeah, actually Ichigo is like part Soul Reaper, part Hollow, part fucking Quincy, and goddammit, his freaking his Zanpakuto is not actually Zanpakuto. That's his hidden Quincy power. Because fuck the damn last arc, it's so stupid.
I gave up after Kenpachi unlocked his Zanpakuto and went.
Oh my
The
god.
cool thing about this character was that he didn't have one.
He didn't have one, right? I mean, like the only
Right,
cool
but-
moment is like he trained with the third or fourth healing.
on Hana,
Yeah, right. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
previous Kenpachi.
Yeah, the previous Kenpa, which explains why she's
That
really
was
good at
actually
healing.
cool.
Yeah,
I'll
that
give
was-
them that.
That was badass. Oh fuck, I forgot. He's also like, what is it, Fullbringer thing? The thing that like, the other
Oh,
humans.
yeah.
Right, he's got that shit going on too. It's like, oh fuck off, Ichigo.
Like, the Fullbringers are so pointless. Like, because they only exist to give an explanation to Chad's powers. Because
Right.
the original explanation for Chad, they decided, you know what, that sounds stupid. Even though it was a lot cooler.
It was a lot cooler. I don't know.
I'm sorry, I still like the original explanation for Chad and Odahime's powers.
Yeah, those were great.
You hung around Ichigo too long.
Well, sort of.
The original explanation for Chad that was going to be that he was actually part Hollow himself.
Yeah,
And
that's
why
what
he has
I
all these hollow-like
like.
powers.
It's from like his grandfather, right? Where it
Right.
like comes down
Like,
in like his
They
blood.
went, this doesn't make any sense, and so they just didn't explain it.
That's so stupid. Honestly, it made way more sense than the other shit.
Yeah, and then they wrote in the Fullbringers later and just put Chad in with that group. Like, yeah, whatever.
I think like the biggest problem also for Bleach is like the more every arc introduces like a new villain, and like they're cool, but they're like basically this could be an entire different show. What's it doing in this show?
Okay,
right.
let's.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like at
Uh.
least he's got like a new manga coming out currently, and apparently it's pretty decent. So good for him. Unlike Naruto, no, after Boruto,
Didn't-
no. Yeah, Samurai 8, super dead.
Yeah, that already ended. Like, did it not do well, or was it
No.
intended to be short?
No, I think it got canceled. Yeah. So I guess like the only
Oh.
one still going is what, like One Piece, and even fucking One Piece lost its crown to like Demon Slayer, but Demon Slayer is over, so One Piece is gonna
Here's
get
the
its
thing.
crown back.
One Piece has always consistently been in the top 3. It hasn't always been number 1, because sometimes Bleach and Naruto took that spot. For a while it was Boku no Hero, but it's always been in the top 3.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, for God's sakes, 20 years of that is fucking crazy.
They're getting near the end.
Are they?
Yeah, so the current arc, if Luffy wins, if he wins, he will have 2 of the 4 pieces he needs to find One Piece.
Oh shit. Nice.
Actually, wait, no, I'm wrong. He'll have 3 of the 4.
Damn. So we're like 30% to the finish line. Nice. That, honestly, I did not expect them to be doing. But I guess even like fucking no, not Kubo. Kubo or Bleach. Whoever the hell is writing One Piece. No, Kishimoto wrote Naruto. Shit, I remember the 2 other guys.
Yeah, Kishimoto was Naruto, Kubo was Bleach, Oda is One Piece.
Yes, Oda. So like, I guess even like Oda is probably getting fucking tired of this shit. Even though Oda is a crazy person. So like, especially considering like he started out as like an assistant, and his whole thing is like, oh, I saw like the late 90s, like the 90s anime, which were like super popular, or I guess manga, but like they all had problems. So he's like, he worked as an assistant, so he saw the faults, and he's like, I'm just gonna make a show that doesn't do that. And like for fucking 20 plus years, you know.
He was drafting One Piece since he was a kid.
Yeah, it's true. That does make sense with how, like, he's able to keep it going.
like his original story was, I believe it was a romance story, before it became a pirate adventure, and the main characters of that eventually became Luffy and Nami.
Yes, I did hear something about that. That's super interesting.
And so that's why the start of One Piece is called Romance Dawn.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Um, Actually, yeah, honestly, like One Piece has really strong opening. Um, no, that's not true. I think like Bleach actually has like the fucking strongest out of the get go. Well, Naruto has a really good setup, but I think like Bleach has like a really strong fucking start. Because like the
Alright,
first
wait.
two arcs are pretty much what like everybody likes about Bleach. Right after that, it's just downhill.
I just like the magic sword.
Look, everybody likes the magic sword.
Anyways, that's enough about shonen anime.
Hey, I mean, it's tangentially related. This is a show about magic swords. I mean,
Well, I can tell
they
it's been a
haven't
while
gone.
since I've-
They haven't gone all 0-1 with the fucking Bankai battle yet.
I still can't believe he activated his Bankai.
The show better be doing it.
Oh.
Oh man.
And if you don't believe me, watch 01.
Or like the final arc of 0-1.
Anyways, so Toma now has Yuri and Slash on his team. And so he now has the same number of swordsmen as Sword of Logos, but I feel like he has the higher power curve.
Yeah, I mean, especially considering I feel like Buster is like basically guaranteed to switch sides at this point, and like
See, I think-
Rintaro
I think-
might come around.
Rintaro's
I-
gonna be the last one.
like, I
Oh
think
no,
Buster-
no way!
I
You
think-
think fucking Kenzan's gonna hold out less than Rintaro?
I think
Sorry, I
Buster,
meant last. Go on.
I think Buster's gonna stick around with the Southern base just to like interfere.
Be the
Be
inside
the
man.
buffer zone. Be that buffer zone of. No, don't worry. Slash is working on it.
I don't think like okay, I could see him trying it, but I don't think Southern Base Lady is gonna like buy any of his bullshit because like she pretty much doesn't trust them already, considering last time they went out and then they came back empty handed and this time he's gone. And it's like, well, yeah, I don't trust you guys at all at this point. Because like she can't manipulate them. Right? Because they don't listen to her shit because they're experienced people, they know how it's supposed to go, so she can't bullshit them too hard.
The only ones she can manipulate are Rintaro and Ren.
The
Yeah.
two emotional idiots.
Right, exactly. And I'm like, yeah, I can see Buster sticking around just to help them out because, like, okay, man, if we leave the Southern base with those two geniuses alone, it's like they're 100% gonna turn out to become villains. Left with Southern base lady, right? So it's like I'm like that's the only reason I can see Buster sticking around is to help the kids, but I'm like that can't last that long. But you're right, the power curve is definitely on Saber's team.
Alright. So, next week's episode is a Buster episode.
Yeah, I mean, it says it's gonna explain why Buster joined the Sword of Logos or whatever, or why
Probably
he
has
fights
to
for
do with
them.
his wife, if I had to guess.
That'd be my guess.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I wasn't guessing that, but like, yeah, that would make sense, I guess. Also, man, this is like a couple episodes ago, but holy fuck, is Yuri like the most Deus Ex Machina convenient shit ever? It's like, oh yeah, we both broke our legs. We have no backup. Oh, Yuri, yeah, you're healed. Oh, this person knows our sick. No, they don't. Right?
Yeah, that
It's
was
like
literally last episode.
no, like
Well,
two.
he's
three
one of the
episodes.
two strongest swords. Like,
I
he might
know.
as well be useful for something.
Right.
I got to admit, and I side with May on this. His new form is gaudy as shit.
Oh god, it
Of
is.
course. He's a comic book
course it is.
character.
Yeah, right.
Like it makes complete sense, and for him, it is pure awesomeness. But it's like, yeah, no, this is fucking ridiculous.
I know. I love the effects of how he fights too. I'm like, oh, this is the conclusion of all the fucking manga comic writer forms we've been doing. It's like, no, his power up is just those effects, right? It's like X8 and like build common or build with his like manga form, and like there's a couple other ones that have like the manga stuff. Yeah, right. And it's all just been building these power up and like all these effects, and now we finally get to see them in like one character. I'm like, you know what? Like even his like random fighting style and everything is
Like,
great. I love how his forms are called episodes. Right? Like
I'm good with everything about that form. The only thing I don't like is the page panels.
I'm okay with
It drives me nuts.
But it's going
I
over
hate that. I've always hated that freeze frame thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably just for either his like full finisher, or it's just because it's the debut episode, so they're throwing like all the effects for this form. Like unless it's a movie, we might not see that again. So I'm fine with it.
Like I'm okay with all of the other comic booky effects for it. I just hated the splash panels.
Yeah, I'm honestly that is pretty over the top. I'd let it slide for the. Yo, you know what? I actually would be okay with it if they doubled down and went even more crazy and they just did the fucking 01 shit of like you just get giant letters coming on screen. This like dramatic freeze frame when like the attack lands and then you get the splash. I'm like, all right, either fucking take this away or double down. Right?
Rising impact. Rising impact.
On a side note, Rye, when you play as 01 in Memory
It
of
does
Heroes,
that?
yes,
Good.
for all of his forms.
Dude, like honestly, I wish Toei would have freaking used that. Like that is the coolest fucking finishing thing I've ever seen in Rider, or at least in a really long time. I wish that's what Toei would have continued to use.
It also puts in all of the henshin sounds for everybody's forms
Oh, nice.
to include the it's high quality and the it's never over, because 02 is his final form
yeah.
in the game.
Well, that's gonna be in the movie, right? Something with that form.
Authorized.
Well, yeah.
No, it's authorize, progrise, realize, realizing Hopper.
01, dude.
Jump to the sky, takes off toward a dream.
It's so good, dude. Like honestly, 01, like it's so weird. Like it's a very Kuga moment, right? Where it's like fucking everything in the show weirdly works so damn well. Right? Or I guess maybe like Agito, because it's not like 100% super great, but it's like, you know what? It's all weird and it all somehow works.
Yeah, it got a little rough there for a bit, but they brought it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, to antiquate it to Agito, that Thouser bit.
That's
that was the Akatsuki go.
Oh, you're right. Oh, why is he have this hate for Hidan? Agreed. Where it's like, oh, why does he like secretly want to take over the company? What did he do with his grandfather? Like all these theories, and it's like fucking nothing. It's a dog.
Yeah, to be fair, 2 episodes that were going to be dedicated to that got cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. But honestly, I feel like if Saber started here in like the last 6 episodes or season 2 or whatever, and you're like, well, that's weird because we're missing a character and everybody keeps talking about him. But I'm like, well, fucking, we've had like a couple shows where it's like, oh, 6 months ago something happened. Go from there.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I would have liked
Double
that.
literally did this.
If they kept
Double
alluding
literally
to like,
did that.
Like, hey,
Oh,
I still
Wizard
can't
too.
forgive you for what happened to Kento. Like,
Right,
I would have been
exactly.
down for that. It's like, oh, they know each other, drama.
Right. Oh, it would have been like how Snipe shows up and then
And it's like,
Graphite
oh,
shows
what
up.
happened? 5 years ago, huh?
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
And
and then it
Rafa, it's
takes us
always
until
like, you
after
piece
the
of
show
shit, why are
ends
you
to
still
actually get the
around?
final bit.
Sorry, go ahead, Bash.
It's like, and then it takes us to get to the end of the series to finally get that last little bit of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, well, we have like, he has his own miniseries.
Oh,
too,
I know.
which
The
is-
last episode came out like 4 weeks before the show ended.
You're
Jesus.
shitting on Drive for its spin-offs.
X8
Yeah.
went ridiculous with its spin-offs.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like, Toei always says they'll tone it down, but they don't.
Well, they technically did
Okay,
after
he-
X8.
At least with drives, the last one they did literally poked fun at itself.
yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, X8 got pretty bad there. Build had a few as well, but I feel like X8 was slightly worse in that regard, and then it got better.
Yeah. Well, here's the difference. Like, X8, it's got like 4 movies or whatever, and then the final one, or who cares? The thing is, like, I haven't seen them. I don't feel like it's super necessary because the show ended well enough. Right? Whereas,
yeah, no,
like,
they aren't necessary. It's if you want a bit more.
right. Whereas, like, you have like some shows where it's like, oh no, this is super important. But you're right, like, even 01, as much as we like it, like, if we didn't see that fucking episode with Naki, who the hell is Naki?
Oh man, that would have been terrible.
Right? And it's like,
And that's-
oh my.
That's kind of what's happening here. Like, there's an episode that fixed part of our problems with a character, and we didn't see it.
Yeah. It's. Honestly, it's annoying. Because, like, the show has potential, and the only reason it's in this wish-washy state is because of what Toei is doing. Right? Because, like, they wrote the thing, and it makes sense, so they could have put it in the show, and it's like, Toei's like, nah, this goes here now. Right? So, at that point, it's like, I can't really blame them. This is the same fucking shit you did in Ghost, and you said you learned your lesson, but you didn't. It's like, why, man? Anyway, season 2 of Saber, great so far.
I have one small little comment to make, and it's only because it was from the last episode, and I did not realize how much I missed watching other people make other people transform.
Oh,
Right, we got
yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
right.
Like,
very
May
fast.
forcing Yuri to transform from fishing out the belt to fishing out the book and doing the whole thing. All I could think of is, as it happened, was when they did it in O's.
Oh, yeah. See, I was like, it's either going to be Phi's or O's, but I'm like, yeah, O's much better recent comparison. Phi's at the beginning, but yeah, O's definitely.
I did enjoy the Zio one with Momotaros.
Okay. Okay, that was pretty good too.
That one's always good. Anything
Here I
with Momo
go.
is good.
How do I use this?
So good.
But like, yeah.
Oh.
May making Yuri transform. All I could think of was O's. The
Yeah.
only thing that would have been missing would be for the monster to look at the screen and go, like
Yeah.
Kazari did.
Yeah. I was gonna say is what the hell was I gonna say? Sorry. No, it's not important. Yeah, I lost my train of thought.
We've been going for an hour.
Yeah, let's wrap this up. I'm tired.
See, right now you see why this is usually an hour.
Yeah. What? Oh yeah. So we know where the Sword of Light is. What do you think? Do you think the Sword of like Darkness?
Calibers.
Yeah. Like, do you think it's gonna come back in the show?
Oh,
Yeah, it has been.
yes. Because
Kento's inside it.
the toy scans dictated to be so. I won't say any more than that.
Okay.
On a side note, send me what you saw because I missed it.
Oh, wow, I thought you were the one that sent it. Alright.
I mean, I may have. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'll pull it up again and send it to you. But, yeah. So, thanks for joining us tonight,
Oh,
everybody.
I remember what I was gonna talk about. You guys saw that Deno Pretty Cure special, right?
I have not watched it.
I have not
So,
watched it
okay.
either.
So as it turns out, it's not a Pretty Cure crossover. They just use the same font for Pretty.
Oh, well, I am disappointed.
What the fuck, man? You did the damn Shin-chan crossover. Why not this?
And it's written by someone who has worked on Pretty Cure.
Yeah, okay.
But it's just hey, the Imagine possess a girl, so you get like a magical girl rider.
I'm like, that's cool, but I'm like, is that animated or live action?
It's live action.
Okay.
They
like-
just add some ribbons to the suit.
Okay. I was gonna say, oh, that's interesting. I was gonna say, like, isn't that like the plot of one of the fucking movies where they go? Oh no, fuck! I'm thinking of the Hibiki one. That like Hibiki Deno thing. Yeah, whatever. It's not important. That's a different movie, but I'm like, it's also cool because like Deno, so many people have been Deno or like used the Imagine. It's cool that you could just pass it on. Right.
the time travel that never ends. Oh wait, yes, I am the one who shared that. Never mind, I'm stupid.
That's fine. Is it good or is it just filler or like mediocre?
Oh, it's filler, but it is like it's like a cute episode of Deno, like, but it's nothing more than that.
All right.
It's one to make you go, "Aw," and also
Yeah,
make
it's
you
like,
miss
oh,
Deno.
that was adorable.
Okay, that's good enough. Maybe I'll look at it. But anyway, we've been going for an hour and 11 minutes. Final thoughts. Mine would be solid episode, actually. Probably the best out of the ones we've been seeing last couple, but the last couple have been really good too. But this is definitely really solid.
I tie episode 20 directly into this because I feel this is worthy of being listed as a two-parter, and both of them were fantastic.
Yeah, so the interesting thing is episode 21 and 20 are written by different people. So 19 and 20 was like a two-part thing by one writer. Because this show does this thing where it's like every 2 episodes are written by one writer and one director. I guess they're writing and filming them. Or, I mean, they're writing those 2 episodes by one person, and then they're filming it together, maybe.
Which is funny because last week and this week do flow into each other well.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, like, the last couple have flown really well, but you're right. Like, last week and this, like, pick off so well. But we'll see, actually. The most interesting thing, too, is, like, the way that the previews go. Because they make it feel like it's going to be one thing, and then there's, like, so much more going on in the episode, right? I'm like, that's impressive, honestly. So whoever is doing the preview work is doing a good job too. Good job, editor. But yeah, solid. Actually worth recommending now, right? Like,
right.
The last couple episodes and now, like, definitely 21. Like, I would say, like, you could recommend this to anyone. I'm not sure if they would understand what the fuck is going on. But, like, again, an actually good episode of a show. Like, I don't really have complaints. Like, we have complaints as, like, all of Saber or all of Toei's shit, but, like, not this episode. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. This was a really enjoyable episode, and I look forward to seeing Slash working alongside Toma again. I want to see the 3-person henshin with them now, and I look forward to Sort of Logos tearing itself apart.
Always nice when the organizations rip itself to shreds.
It is not going to be stable after Slash's betrayal.
Nah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, honestly, I'm fine with that. That place is way too... Like, holy shit, the lighting in there is terrible. I mean, like, on purpose, it's supposed to look gloomy, but I'm like, how do you people work in this? Right? Like,
you don't.
You just sit there in, like, the world's most depressing living room.
No, they just forgot to pay their power bill. Kenzan's dead, so he can't
Oh my God!
turn the computer.
Not Kenzan, Kento Espada.
Kento.
Oh, that's why they want the lightning blade back?
Yes,
Turn
the
on
one
the
that let you
lights.
blade that.
They don't have any
Power back up.
swordsmen, so they can't justify turning the power on. They have no funding.
Oh my god.
All right, thanks for joining us
Holy
tonight,
shit.
everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday for Akira Major. It's in its last 3 episodes, and next Wednesday for more Kamen Rider Saber.
Yep.
Adios.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. And